Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio.
Good afternoon, welcome to RRC Polytech. My name is Fred Meier, I'm the President and CEO. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the Deputy Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Freeland.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Fred. Thank you for the warm welcome. And thank you very much to the students, the award-winning students, who are here with me today, and for the great tour that I've had. Very, very inspiring for me. So, good afternoon. I'd like to begin by saying that my thoughts are with the students, teachers, and families affected by yesterday's incident at Fort Gibraltar. Thank you to the first responders and the staff at the Children's Hospital for acting so quickly. And I really hope that everyone who has been injured recovers quickly and fully. Je tiens à souligner que nous sommes réunis sur le territoire de traité numéro 1, qui est le foyer, les terres traditionnelles des Anishinaabe, des Inuits et des Dakota, ainsi que la patrie nationale des Métis de la Rivière Rouge. I'm so glad to be here in Winnipeg today with some of the incredible students and staff of Red River College Polytech. I had the chance earlier to tour the Motive Lab and the Smart Factory and to meet some of the amazing women of the Women of Steel program. These are some great young women learning how to weld, and they really, really inspired me. What people are learning about here is the kind of technology that is absolutely essential to our clean, innovative, and growing Canadian economy. So I really want to start by saying to everyone, to the students, to the teachers, thank you very, very much for the incredible work you do every day. You are building Canada, you are driving the growth of the amazing country that we are so lucky to call home. And I'm really glad to have had the chance to spend some time with you. Now, speaking of Canada's economy, we had some good news earlier this week. Canada had the strongest economic growth in the G7 last year in 2022. And just yesterday, we learned that Canada's GDP grew by 3.1% in the first quarter of 2023. Dans les 4 premiers mois de 2023, près d'un quart de million d'emplois ont été créés dans l'économie canadienne. Aujourd'hui, il y a 907 000 personnes de plus sur le marché du travail par rapport à l'époque où la COVID a frappé, et nous avons maintenant récupéré 129% des emplois que nous avions perdus au cours du premier mois de la pandémie, comparativement à seulement 115% aux États-Unis. À seulement 5%, notre taux de chômage est près de son creux historique. This is all great news for Canada. But we also have some real challenges. One is a lack of skilled workers. And that is something which is constraining the economies of industrialized countries around the world. It's constraining our economy. As we work to build a clean economy in Canada and to double the number of new homes by 2032, Attracting more people to the skilled trades will be ever more important. So to the people who I met today, to the people who are behind me, we need you. Thank you very, very much for learning how to do these absolutely essential jobs. With the fastest growing population in the G7, welcoming new Canadians is one powerful and particularly Canadian solution to this lack of skilled workers. So too is our Canada-wide system of affordable early learning and childcare, which is saving Manitoba families an average of $2,610 per child this year. Early learning and childcare means more women will be able to choose both a family and a great career. And I hope some of them are going to come here to Red River College to learn some great skills. And in fact, some of those young women in Steele who I met are mothers. And they need childcare to be able to learn skills to take care of their families. Another essential pillar of expanding our workforce and growing our economy is ensuring that working people in Canada have the chance to learn and upgrade the skills they need. That's why our government is investing heavily in skills training, so that students like the ones here at Red River College are able to get good paying jobs and build an even brighter future here in Manitoba and across the country. For example, this spring, we provided an additional $200 million for the Student Work Placement Program, because we know how important co-ops and internships are in helping students learn the skills and receive the training they need. And I bet you the guys behind me could tell you about that. We also invested $470 million in our 2021 budget to create a new apprenticeship service, which helps employers hire first-year apprentices in Red Seal trades. Our government will continue to invest in our incredible skilled workers here in Canada. We're going to invest in the training you need to get great careers, to support great lives. Our economy depends on you, and our economy depends on the excellent training that you receive at places like Red River College and at other great polytechnics across Canada. And I just want to say to everyone here, I value your work so, so much. I value the work of the teachers. And you know what? Above all, I value the work of the students who are making the investment in themselves. And we're counting on you to build Canada. So thank you very much. Okay, I'm ready to answer your questions.
I'll take questions from media, one question, one follow-up, and I'll just ask that you give your name and outlet before going.
Hi. Hello, Deputy Prime Minister Jill Makashon with CTV National News. You spoke about the GDP, good news. We also saw an increase in inflation in April, not such great news. Economists are saying, this could all potentially lead to another increase. The Bank of Canada overnight rate will be announced, I think, this week. Are you concerned?
The Bank of Canada will make its announcement next week. And Canada has had a long-standing and actually pioneering practice of central bank independence. So I'm not going to comment on the bank's decisions. I will say that our governing institutions, very much including the Bank of Canada, are such an important underpinning for Canada and a reason that Canada really works, a reason that investors have confidence in investing in Canada, a reason that Canada has our AAA credit rating is the strength of our institutions, including an independent Bank of Canada. On inflation, let me just point out that it has come down very significantly from 8.1% in June. That is real progress, and that is making a real difference in the lives of Canadians.
As a follow, I guess we'll talk about workers. When President Biden was here, there were big announcements made about EV and potential growth in the mining sector in Canada. Are you concerned that we really don't have enough workers, not just for industry, but to drive all economic growth in this country?
Look, I would much rather have a situation where we have really low unemployment, and unemployment in Canada is at 5% right now, close to historic lows, and where when I talk to businesses, they say, I really need more workers. That's a good problem to have. It's much, much better than the reverse, which is people who want to work who can't get a job. And during COVID, when we had the deepest economic crisis since the Great Depression, and when 3 million Canadians overnight lost their jobs, our government's unrelenting focus was jobs, jobs, jobs. Because I believe so strongly that the single most important thing in a person's life, the difference between a good life and a really hard life, is whether you have a good job. And that's why I'm here, actually, is to celebrate the people who are investing in themselves so they can have a great job and a great career. Now, you are totally right, Jill, that I believe Canada is poised on, actually is already launched into an era of incredible economic growth, an era of growth in industry as we build a clean economy, and an area of growth in some of our traditional sectors of strength, like natural resources, because Canada is very, very well positioned in terms of our endowment of critical minerals and metals. And absolutely, that means one of the things our country needs is more skilled workers. Our government is totally committed to investing in places like Red River College so that Canadians can get the skills they need.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes today's press conference.
Okay, well, it was nice to see you guys. And I just do want to conclude.
Yes, thank you. I had a good weekend. Thanks for asking, Michelle. All right, this afternoon at 3:30, there'll be a briefing here by Tanja Fajon, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Slovenia, and Ambassador Malorv, the permanent representative of the Republic of Slovenia to these United Nations. They will be here to speak on the forthcoming Security Council elections. This morning, the Secretary General, Anotion Guterres, briefed member states on three of his policy briefs under our common agenda. The three briefs deal with the topics of reform of the international financial architecture, moving beyond gross domestic product, and the Global Digital Compact. The Secretary General said the three briefs provide ideas on how we can revitalize the multilateral system, accelerate efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and keep global temperature rise to 1.5 degree limit of the Paris Agreement. He stressed that the briefs are meant to serve as an inspiration for deliberations and decisions which are in the hands of member states as they prepare for the Sustainable Goal Summit in September and the Summit of the Future next year. What matters is that we take action to tackle new and emerging challenges in a way that we deliver for all, restoring trust in international cooperation and each other, Mr. Guterres added. We expect all of the briefs, that's 11 in total, to be issued by the end of July. This morning, the Security Council heard from Abdou Abari, the special representative of the Secretary General and head of the UN Office for Central Africa. He started on a positive note, saying the region has more opportunities and resources than challenges, noting that preference shown by most member states in the sub-region is for dialogue to resolve tensions peacefully, quoting that the dialogue between the Central African Republic and Chad, as well as the mobilization of states from the region to resolve the crisis in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But Mr. Abari added that the impact of the Sudanese crisis on Chad and the Central African Republic remind us of the urgent need to adopt a holistic approach to peace and security in the Central Africa sub-region. He paid tribute to the solidarity and generosity shown by the two countries, which have already taken thousands of Sudanese refugees, adding that without rapid and peaceful resolution of the conflict in Sudan, the impacts will be disastrous for Sudan, but also for all of the countries in the Lake Chad Basin region. His remarks were shared with you. And just an update from Sudan itself. Despite the ongoing violence, we are moving humanitarian relief for people in need around the country. Some 68 humanitarian partners are providing aid and protection across all of Sudan's 18 states. This includes UN organizations, Sudanese and international NGOs, as well as the Red Crescent Society. Since the start of this current phase of the conflict, UNICEF has delivered more than 2,500 tons of health, nutrition, water, and sanitation supplies, including in areas where the fighting continues. This assistance will benefit at least 1.6 million children. More than 600 tons of life-saving nutrition aid have reached now 11 states. That's enough for UNICEF and its partners to treat some 45,000 children suffering from severe wasting in the coming months. And also, since the start of this the current phase of the conflict, UNHCR has set up some 1,000 tents in White Nile, Kassala, Gedaref, and North Darfur states to help people on the move. We're also supporting the response in neighboring countries that are hosting people fleeing the violence in Sudan. Over the weekend, the WHO delivered 10 tons of essential medicines and health supplies to Egypt. That's enough to treat 50,000 new arrivals suffering from non-communicable diseases and severe acute malnutrition. And moving south to the Central African Republic, or southwest rather, the humanitarian coordinator there, Mohamed Agoya, said today that humanitarian situation remains critical, with 3.4 million, or 56% of the population, in need of humanitarian assistance. Mr. Ayoya said the conflict in Sudan has resulted so far in the arrival of almost 14,000 men, women, and children who are seeking asylum as they flee the violence. They are mostly arriving in the northeast of the country, and including in that are Central African returnees. The conflict has also halted commercial traffic across the border, putting additional pressure on the limited resources available to the 130,000 extremely vulnerable people who are in the region. Overall displacement in the Central African Republic continues. 1 in 5 Central Africans is either internally displaced or on a refugee in neighboring country. Last year, the humanitarian community provided assistance to 1.9 million people. In the first 3 months of this year, we have provided assistance to 658,000 people with life-saving assistance. This year, we need to $533 million to assist a total of 2.4 million people. We will also continue to support people arriving from Sudan and, of course, the host communities that have opened up their arms and homes to them. The humanitarian appeal for the Central African Republic is sadly only 25% funded. And just turning to Haiti, in light of the devastating floods and landslides that we've seen over the weekend, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs is supporting the Haitian Civilian Protection General Directorate to assess the needs and coordinate the emergency response. Authorities say at least 42 people were killed, more than 37,000 people impacted, including 19,000 people displaced. Alongside Haitian institutions, we and our partners are gearing up to deliver assistance, including shelter, food supplies, drinking water, and hygiene kits, and other types of facilities. 7 of Haiti's 10 departments were impacted. The impact was worst in the west, including in the capital Port-au-Prince and in the southwest. The extent of damage is still being assessed, but the situation is extremely worrying, given the hurricane season is only just beginning. As a reminder, even before the landslides and flooding, half of the population of Haiti was in need of humanitarian assistance. We urge donors to scale up the support for the country's humanitarian response plan, which is sadly only 20% funded, and it is an appeal for $720 million US. Sorry, doing a little zigzagging here. Heading back across to Africa, a quick update from Jean-Pierre Lacroix, the head of our peace operations. Today he is in Kinshasa in the DRC, where he's discussing with senior government officials the reconfiguration of the peacekeeping mission in view of a responsible transition. Over the weekend, Mr. Lacroix was in Ituri province where he met with provincial authorities, including the military governor. He visited the site for internally displaced people in Drodro, 60 kilometers north of the provincial capital, Bunia, where peacekeepers provide physical protection to about 100,000 men, women, and children through 4 temporary operating bases and 1 permanent combat deployment. While there, Mr. Lacroix heard the testimonies of displaced children who were forced out of school due to insecurity and women who are bearing, as is sadly the case, the brunt of the conflict. Also traveling is the Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Joyce Msuya, who today kicked off a 5-day visit to Japan to explore how to enhance cooperation on humanitarian action. Ms. Msuya took part in the first ever strategic dialogue with Japan's foreign ministry to discuss mounting humanitarian crises and innovative approaches to address them. While in Tokyo, she will meet with other senior Japanese government officials, as well as representatives of Japan International Cooperation Agency and aid organizations. And over the weekend, you will have seen we issued a statement expressing the Secretary General's sadness at the loss of life and injury following the train accident in Odisha in India. The Secretary General extends his deep condolences to the families of the victims as well as the people and government of India. He wishes a full and swift recovery to all those who were injured. Our colleagues in the Office of Development Coordination tell us that Joanna Kazana-Wisniewski of Poland is taking up her new post today as the UN Resident Coordinator in Trinidad and Tobago. She will also coordinate UN development operations in Aruba, Curacao, Suriname, and St. Martin. She brings more than 20 years of experience in international development. Her full bio is on I was about to say is on sale, is online. Today is World Environment Day. In his message, the Secretary General said that this day is a call to beat plastic pollution. He called on government, companies, and consumers alike to break our addiction to plastics, champion zero waste, and build a truly circular economy. Today is also the International Day for the fight against illegal, underreported, and unregulated fishing. These activities are responsible for the loss of 11 to 26 million tons of fish every year, a vital source of nutrition in a world of growing population and persistent hunger. An important reminder to all of you and your media organizations is that the accreditation for the GA high-level meeting is open. Remember to accredit not so much yourselves, but all of your colleagues. The deadline is September 1st. The GA does happen every September, so this should not be a surprise. The 25th of September, we'll see the SDG Summit. The 26th of September is the official opening of the high-level debate. Super short quiz for you today from our friend Jane Gaffney. The island of Viti Levu is home to this island's nation capital city. And if you can't figure that out, this country also is the location where I think is Farhan Haq's favorite movie, The Blue Lagoon, was filmed with Brooke Shields. Fiji, exactly. And who co-starred alongside Brooke Shields? Christopher Atkins. Excellent. You played, you won, you get the first question, Michelle.
Thank you, Stefan. 2 questions for you. First on Ukraine grain. Russia has said today that it sees no prospects for extending the Black Sea grain deal. Would you like to respond to that?
No. The discussions are going on. We keep constant discussions with our partners within the framework of the JCC, including the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And as we've said many a times, the grain initiative is critical to address world food prices and hunger, as is the MOU we signed with the Russian Federation on fertilizer and grain.
Can you give us any idea about what the hurdles are at the moment to restarting this ammonia pipeline?
There's a conflict going on. James. No,
Hang on, I'm still in 2. Afghanistan, the NRC said today that they've resumed work in Kandahar and elsewhere in Afghanistan. Has the UN made any progress in carving out more exemptions for the work of female staff? Thanks.
On Afghanistan, no, I don't have any more details for you on the on our work operations, but I'll try to get you some more details. Edie and then James.
Thank you, Steph. Does the UN have any information on what's going on the ground in eastern Ukraine?
I mean, not a specific military operation. We do not have that, the mandate nor the capacity to do that. We continue in Ukraine to address the impact of the conflict through our humanitarian and human rights missions.
Is the UN still able to deliver humanitarian aid on the Ukrainian side of the front lines?
We continue our efforts to deliver humanitarian aid as close to the front lines as possible, because those are the communities that are most in need. As we report, I think, almost in real time to as soon as we have convoys. So I have not gotten any updates on new convoys today.
And on Sudan, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia have appealed for a new ceasefire. Is the UN still able to deliver humanitarian aid, or has the fighting resumed to a point where it's become difficult again?
There's been some challenges. It is, I mean, as I said earlier, we are able to deliver aid where we can, almost on a case-by-case basis, depending on what is going on in the region. I know our colleagues at WFP have having some more recent challenges in food distribution. We want to see a full and complete cessation of hostilities, so we don't have to sort of negotiate on a case-by-case basis for access. We want to see the parties in Sudan stop the fighting, so we can actually help the Sudanese people at the scale that is needed.
And just a final question, where is Volker Perthes?
Volker Perthes will be making his way back to the region later this week. James.
Yeah, so two very different subjects. First, on what the SG has been talking about today, our common agenda and these policy briefs. What is the timeline for these? You're coming up with all these different ideas for member states to discuss, but what do you see as the timeline going forward? Is this all aimed at the summit for the future?
I mean, it's aimed at... It's aimed at the General Assembly debate. It's aimed at the SDG, summit. Thank you. The G20. It's aimed at all of these important dates that we are having, including the summit of the future.
Now, and you've got 11 of these briefs. You've put out 3 today. That means there are 8 more.
There are others that have been published in your absence.
Oh, have they? Sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
It's okay.
But your AI one, there's one on AI, is that right?
There's the digital one, and then we have one on misinformation coming out later this week.
No, I'm thinking.
And
you were saying there was going to be an AI policy. Is that going to be one of these policy briefs, or is it something different?
No, I mean, it's included. There's reference to it, if I'm not mistaken, in the Digital Compact, and also in one coming out later this week. And as I often do, listening to the Secretary General replying to member states today, I would encourage you to go back and look at the video. He spoke around noon.
I heard some of it, but then
he heard around. I think I would encourage you to listen to him. I do, just for your programming.
But is there another AI policy coming out, or is it? I mean, because you did at one point say, "Oh, we'll be publishing an AI policy."
No,
So,
I didn't. It's addressed within
this
number.
is within this.
And
Okay, and so just to add to that, does he really think this timeline for all of these very important matters, the AI one, doesn't the international community need to be addressing AI much more urgently than a summit that's not taking place until September next year?
I mean, it's not a. It's not a. It's not saying like there is a specific timeline when decisions need to be made. These are things that need to be decided and looked upon now. But we also, I mean, there is obviously AI. The issue, the issue of autonomous weapons is linked to AI, which he addressed this morning. But we also can't forget the very real challenges we're facing with information integrity and with social media that still have yet to be addressed. He will be either in this room or at the stakeout, most likely on Thursday, to talk about the policy paper on information integrity.
Okay, so my very different subject was a 3-year-old Palestinian boy has died after being shot in the head by Israeli forces 4 days ago, Mohammed Tamimi. What is the Secretary-General's reaction?
Yet another horrendous example of the violence that we are seeing in the occupied Palestinian territory. There needs to be a full investigation. People need to be held to account.
You say yet another, yes, absolutely yet another. Nearly 40 Palestinian children killed in 2022, about 25 of the records I can find killed in 2023. When do we get the Children in Armed Conflict report? Isn't it absolutely clear now that Israel must be on that blacklist, given these figures?
It will be released late June, early July, and I think you will have to wait for the release to judge the report. Alan.
Thank you, Stefan. I have a question regarding the ammonia pipeline. Does the UN believe that the resumption of the work of this pipeline could be accompanied by any preconditions, given the fact that this resumption was mentioned both in the agreement last year and the memorandum?
It's not for me to talk about preconditions. We just want to see an agreement. Obviously, it has to be discussed and negotiated with the parties, but I'm not going to start talking about required preconditions. Okay, you should not take long leave. You should not take long leave. But go ahead, James. Go ahead.
So quickly, you mentioned that the SG will be doing disinformation later in the week, but I think that there's an important question on that right now. YouTube is no longer going to remove videos claiming that the US election was stolen. Clearly, that's just one particular issue, but it's clearly, everyone knows that that is untrue. It is false. It seems to go against the UN's policy on this and its Verify initiative. Is the UN concerned about that decision by Google,
we're
YouTube?
Concerned by any decision by social media companies that lead to increase disinformation. We believe that social media companies have a responsibility for what is published on their what is put on their platform, and we think their policy should reflect that.
Finally, on Hong Kong. Hong Kong police have detained, I think, 24 people to do with the anniversary of Tiananmen Square. What's the UN's reaction?
I would refer you to what Volker Turk said on this today.
Just to follow up to Edie's earlier questions on Ukraine, would the UN expect Ukrainian authorities to give them any kind of heads up on any new major offensive?
No, they're not in the. I mean, as far as I'm aware, we're not privy to a preview of military operations. Abdelhamid, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Stefan. The number of Palestinian detainees has reached 1,000 the highest ever. The detainees started a number of measures to protest that.
If some, hold on, Abdelhamid, if you could up the volume a little bit, not you, I'm asking our technician friends to do that. And in the meantime, I need to correct the record. The opening of the GA is the 19th, not the 26th.
So is that the
The Tuesday of the high-level debate.
Tuesday, so the
The high,
18th
is the, exactly, exactly. But the accreditation deadline remains the 1st. Go ahead, Abdelhamid.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Now, the number of Palestinian detainees had reached 1,083, the highest ever. Detainees started on Sunday a number of measures to protest their detention, which will be culminated in hunger strike in the next few days. So is there any statement or position coming from you and or the special envoy?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm frowning because you're very, very loud all of a sudden. Sorry, if we could just fix the sound issue.
Okay.
If you could mute yourself, Abdelhamid, for a second. Thank you. Just to say on detainees, I think our position remains the same, is that people who are detained by the police or security forces need to be either charged or they need to be released. Stefano.
Thank you, Stefan. Pope Francis sent an envoy, Cardinal Zuppi, today to Kiev for in search for peace. We know that there is a Vatican initiative, but did the Vatican have contact with the Secretary General in this initiative? Did they explain
It's a good question. I have to check. I didn't. I should have asked him this morning, and I did not. But I'll check. Ms. Kubiak, you're up, and thank you all.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Let me start off with World Environment Day. In the last hour, the President spoke at the commemoration for World Environment Day. He spoke about solutions to plastic pollution. He congratulated Côte d'Ivoire, which this year hosts World Environment Day. He also talked about microplastics and the hazards that they pose, not just to our own bodies, but to the environment overall. He noted that plastic and the particles from plastic can be reused up to 3 times safely. And so we need to get more efficient and better at recycling our plastics. And he reiterated the message that you've heard him say many times, that we need to move away from a throwaway culture into a circular economy. And you have his full remarks in your inbox. Meanwhile, in Nairobi today starts the second session of the UN Habitat Assembly. And in a pre-recorded message, the President invited member states to explore how they can ensure that our approach, meaning the General Assembly's approach to sustainable transformation here, is better reflected in what they're doing. So he posed the question of how do you make cities more inclusive, more safe, resilient, and sustainable? And some of the suggestions that he gave was to call for data and statistics. He urged governments to assess risks, specifically as a result of climate change. How are cities responding to climate change? How are they responding to rising seawaters? How are they responding to not having enough water? And he also said that this all entails a shift from kind of this business as usual that we're doing to a real sustainability transformation. And you have his full remarks for that as well. Friday night, you would have seen that he put out a statement on the train crash in Odisha. The president sent his heartfelt condolences to the people and the government of India. He said that his thoughts and prayers are with the victims, families, and with the emergency services that, as you read about, have worked over the weekend. And according to media reports, at least 275 people have been killed and more than 1,200 injured. Looking to tomorrow, you know that tomorrow we're going to be electing the non-permanent members of the Security Council. So that will start in the General Assembly Hall at 10 a.m. There are 6 members up for 5 available seats. Those are Algeria, Belarus, Guyana, the Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, and Slovenia. To win, each candidate needs 2/3 majority of those present and voting. And there will be a stakeout set up outside of the General Assembly Hall, and member states will go up to it. Obviously, I don't have a list of who will speak when, but I think that member states are speaking with Malu, so Tal and his team should give you guys a heads up. And then I heard Stefan, when he mentioned UNGA, everyone started scribbling. So let me again go through the dates. I'll include those in my notes, but just so you know, Monday, 18th of September is the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, also known as the SDG Summit. The SDG Summit will be on Monday, the 18th, and again on Tuesday, the 19th. Tuesday is when the general debate will start. On Wednesday, you have the general debate. You also have the high-level dialogue on financing for development. You also have the high-level meeting on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. Then on Thursday, the 21st of September, you have the general debate. You have the Summit of the Future ministerial meeting. You have the high-level meeting of the universal health coverage. Then on Friday, you have the general debate. You have the high-level meeting on the fight against tuberculosis. And then the general debate will continue on Saturday. There's nothing going on that Sunday and Monday because of Yom Kippur, and then the general debate resumes on Tuesday, the 26th of September. And you'll have all of that in your notes. And the one thing that I forgot to mention to you is that Wednesday, the 20th, is also when the Secretary General has informed that he wants to convene the Climate Ambition Summit that day. But again, that will be all in my notes when I send it out. Yes, sir.
Sorry, just to be clear, 2/3 majority in the vote tomorrow, and if no one in the contested race gets that, you have another vote straight away? How does it work?
It goes on to the next round.
Okay. On the same day?
Yep.
Okay, fine.
All right, let me see if there are any questions in the chat, which I do not see. All right, thanks very much, everyone.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.